At the very start, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know. I know how to feel about the news story I'm about to talk to you about, but I don't know how to feel sort of at a meta level. So help. Give me your thoughts. Okay. Here's the news we're going to talk about real briefly. This is today. This is news from today. I'll give you a little hint before we dive in. This is about Dove, the beauty products, mostly for women, I think, teaming up with Epic and other video game creators in order to make a dent in improving self-esteem of girls who play video games when it comes to their body image, right? I'm going to give you a hint. There's a number, 74%. I'll tell you what that is in a minute, but tell me if you can guess what the 74% number is just by looking at this picture, okay? But let me give you a little bit of information very briefly on what they're doing. This was just announced today. They talk about how gaming is super duper popular. I was surprised by some of these numbers. Gaming has become the number one form of entertainment for teen girls in the US. Here's your 74%, by the way. 74% of girls wish more female characters in games looked like women in real life. Dove is under the impression that, according to their research, unrealistic beauty standards in games make girls feel misrepresented, and it's still a problem, blah, blah, blah. Now, anybody who's been really paying attention, at least to AAA console games, knows that while everything can always be improved in one direction or the other, depending on where you sit on this, it has improved a great deal, whether you're talking about Aloy or you're talking about even just removing the overt sexuality from the God of War series, on and on and on and on. And again, I'm not necessarily saying good or bad on any of this. I'm just saying that maybe Dove's talking about, Fortnite or something that I have no clue. But it wouldn't surprise me to learn that their research found a lot of games that still are problematic in this area if you indeed view this as a problematic thing. Now, I can't imagine anyone out there is going to be saying they're opposed to women in general, people in general, but specifically teen girls, seeing things in their art that they love that is more reflective of what A, what a real person is like, and B, what it's clear, according to 74% of them, they wish more women looked that way. How can you be opposed to that, right? One of the quotes from the study: so often female characters in games play into a narrow stereotypical representation of beauty or are heavily sexualized, and it's affecting women's and girls' self-esteem. So, I think if has gotten better, yes. I don't know what their specific games they were looking at, but clearly when it comes to this issue, there are a ways to go. So then they go in talking about we're making changes and we're partnering with Epic. They're going to make a Roblox game. It's actually coming out pretty soon. It's called Super You Story. A lot of kids obviously play on Roblox. It helps you combat negative self-esteem issues by building up friends and superheroes that it's not out yet. So I don't know how they're going to go about doing it, but great idea. Fantastic. Wonderful. I think you're basically an asshole if you think this is a problem to equip girls with the tools they need to help combat negative self-esteem and build body positivity for teens. I think absolutely. How in the fucking world would you be opposed? I don't know. Okay. So I think it's great. But on the flip side, I want to tell you something that has me thinking a lot lately. So, obviously you're going to see pushback from people who say this is bullshit and, everything is just so woke and so progressive and left, and where's the fun? And I play video games to escape my real life, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Valid position within reason. Okay. And and anybody who watches my shit or has heard me over the decades that I've been active in social media and various things, I'm a very progressive guy. I consider myself a feminist, especially if you use the Webster's definition. I consider myself an ally of the feminist movement. Depending on what you're talking about, obviously, I'm referring to the classic definition. Some people have different definitions of it. I don't know what to tell you. So I'm all in on this. I think it's great. It's necessary. The more, the better. Okay. But I will tell you, a couple things have happened recently. One is Stellar Blade, which used to be Project Eva, came out, and it was one of the first. It was a game. I hadn't seen a game in a long time that was this sexually pushed in a very traditional, heteronormative or lesbian friendly way. Friendly, you know what I'm saying? It's hot. It makes me go, God damn, right? That was nice to see, though. That's my point. As much as I agree with all of this stuff, 100%. Is there room for this too? I mean, I hope so, because I liked it. We were doing a pot and popcorn the other night. There was a movie we were watching called Night of the Demons. And very quickly into the film, there was this scene, right? And this was a movie that was done in the 80s. And I remember watching it and going, man, it's so cool to see a movie that is just sort of like comfort. And again, it's an old movie, but comfortable with its embracing of sort of a more fantastical, pushed version of reality where the guys are able to enjoy sex, the girls are able to enjoy it. Everybody is a good looking human. And it's like, oh, that looks like a lot of fun. Right. So between these two, there's nothing that has come up that makes me say this is a bad idea. It's a wonderful idea. It's necessary. But I do start to wonder, like, you got to go deep on this rabbit hole here, because on one hand you can say, well, what's the problem? Yes, you want to have the majority of the stuff in big AAA be this, but there should be room for this. I'm not saying it should be canceled. But then you get to thinking, you're like, there are people that tell you, and they're fascinating conversations. A lot of people will tell you that are pro this. They'll say, you know what? You're trying to take your natural heteronormative view of women, and you're trying to sort of, get rid of what is a natural instinct, which is to go, well, yeah, I would, even though this person may be wonderful in bed and a wonderful partner and reflects more of a realistic view, I'm not going to lie and say that this wouldn't be a great lady to be with, kind of similar to what you were seeing in the movie here. But on the other hand, I don't know where she went. There she is. She looks so great there. But on the other hand, though, right? So that's usually the pushback. The pushback is, oh, well, no, that's just what it means to be, a straight guy, and don't be ashamed of it and don't be embarrassed by it, and own it and be comfortable with it. But then, I've heard people recently start to talk about this, like just take breasts. I had a debate about a year ago, and I was totally convinced. I was talking to a woman and I said, no, I mean, she was talking about, swimsuits, why are swimsuits sexualized? And I said, well, because they accentuate the breast. She says, why in the world are the breasts sexualized? I'm like, because it's just biology. There are studies that have been done. It's just a biological thing. And she's like, no, not really. There's a lot of counter studies. And when you look this up and actually dive into this stuff, this is from Live Science. I'll just read you very, very briefly. Out of 191 cultures in a 1951 study, only 13 of those found breasts to be important. And all types of breasts were totally different depending on the individual culture. This I thought was kind of amazing. Some of the cultures that don't find breasts, which is the majority, to be sexualized, they say they regard sexualizing breasts as unnatural, perverted, and found it difficult to believe that men would become sexually aroused by women's breasts, right? In the cultural view, they say men aren't so much biologically drawn to breast as it's trained from an early age to find them erotic, right? The point being that a lot of this stuff, because of our culture, is what we've been taught. I don't know if the butt figures in. Let's just take the breast because that's the only study I was looking at. Is a lot of what we've been taught to sexualize. And maybe what a lot of these folks are saying are, if it is something that you can basically train society, and we know over society, different types of women specifically have been more or less desirable depending on the century and the scenario of what was happening in the time period. Maybe the theory is that's like, look, there's nothing inherently more sexual about this than this lady, or this lady. It's just that we've been trained that this is good and this is what we should aspire to. And in that, we make it really difficult for women. We make it really difficult for men to find a partner because they've come up thinking this is what they should aspire to get. And it just, I don't know. I don't have a solution. I don't have an answer. I made this video because I wanted to open up a discussion with people who are interested in this kind of thing. Because on one hand, I love what Dove is doing. I have a daughter. It's important. I want, even if I didn't, I like people for the most. I don't like dealing with them, but I like them as a concept. And I want people to feel great about who they are, and feel comfortable, even if they don't meet these insanely impossible standards. And at the same time, I want to be able to enjoy this. But at the same time, I have to also question, what am I enjoying here that is natural? And what am I enjoying here because I've been trained and conditioned to enjoy it? On a total unrelated issue, I'm just noticing this now. This object looks like it's really far away, but then her hair is going in front of it, which means it's close. What the fuck is that thing? I don't know what that is. Doesn't matter. The point is, I don't know what to think. I'm open to advice. I'm open to conversation. I'm off from live streams for a few more days, or I would have done it there. But hit me up in the comments if you're interested in this kind of malarkey, and let me know what you think, what your vibe is, what your take is. I hope you're well. Hope life is treating you well. Here's a big virtual hug from your Papa Jaffe. Even if you're not having a great day, maybe can you imagine if that made your day better? I'm so happy now. Be well.